7 rounds in now. 7 rounds. And a nice early British Grand Prix this year. And I want to talk later about crowd numbers, things of that nature, and whether or not this maybe was an effect, the early start this year, the early on the calendar, or is this just a trend for the British Grand Prix that's been coming year after year? And we obviously will talk about the chaos and the brilliance of and the heartbreak and the drama and everything we love about the main race there in MotoGP, as always, and talk about the All Japan Cup, Moto2 and Moto3. In fact, you know what? My race of the weekend this weekend, despite all the drama in the Grand Prix, MotoGP, was my race of the weekend was the Moto2 race. So I think I'm going to start there because Australia. Senna Agius is a Grand Prix winner in Moto2. The young Aussie, was he only 18 or something? It's his second full season in Moto2, I want to say. Never went through Moto3, did he? So, I'd say well and truly ahead of schedule. This one, I think there's a real talent there in Senna. And someone's seen it to bring him in straight into Moto2 and this Liquimoly Dyno Magic Intact Grand Prix Racing, whatever. They've seen something there. They've hired the lad and he's delivered. And like I said, I think ahead of schedule. He's only a wee boy, although he does look quite big compared to some of these Spanish lads. So like I said, this was my race of the weekend. And again, guys, just skip ahead. There's all going to be chaptered below. If you don't really care about Moto2 and that, just crack on, skip ahead. It'll all be down there for you. This was my race of the weekend. It was absolutely brilliant. And it was one of those ones where I think the only way Senna won this was the way he did, basically. Because unless he was able to get to the front and pull a couple of tenths by the time he got to the back straight, the hanger straight, and then hold on there and then try and consistently produce his lap times. Unless he was able to do that, I couldn't see him going on to win it because he just kept getting rounded up on the straight. Now, I don't know, a lot of suggestion on comms that was purely due to his size, and he's a tall, lanky lad, and he maybe couldn't get tucked in as much as these little Spaniards can, and Colombians and Brazilians, you know what I mean. The suggestion was that was why he was losing so much time down the hanger straight. I don't know if sometimes that is that literally all it is? Someone who might know a bit more than I do. Is that literally all it is? Is there anything to do with maybe the way they've set the bike up, the gearing and things like that? If they can, I'm assuming they can make as many changes to that kind of stuff as they like to suit the rider, what he wants to get out of the circuit. Or is it more standard that everyone would be geared pretty similar depending on the side length of the straight, the longest straight and things like that? Look, I don't know. It seems odd to be losing as much time as he did because they were coming on to that. Another part of it, I've actually, now that I've said it out loud, is maybe there is an approach to how he's entering the back straight. Maybe he was probably gaining quite a bit of time through that maggots, Beckett's, whatever, name them all, left, right, quadruple chicane type thing. And because he was gaining so much time through there, I don't know if maybe it was he was sacrificing a bit of exit speed and that's how he was making his lap time. And then because of that, the others were maybe aiming for more top speed down the end of the straight. But it did look like he was pulling onto the straight in pretty good position. And you could see, like, even when he was in third, whoever was in second, a lot of the time it was Alonso and Moreira, whoever, would tuck in behind the leader and he'd be tucked in behind them and they would still be using the slipstream to pull away and he wasn't going anywhere. It was just, so I don't know, maybe it is just he's too big, but basically because he couldn't stay ahead of them at the end of the hanger straight and he kept getting past, it meant that it made it look like for me, it looked like he was going to struggle to win the race. But like I said, there was always going to be, and he said this in his interview at the end, he was like, I just needed them. He thought they might scrap on the last few corners, and they did, and he took advantage of it. It was a great win, great move. Look, he basically was like, I'm going to settle for third or pick up the pieces. He got a bit lucky, but he played his hand. He had to do what he had to do. He knew he couldn't win it any other way. So he was prepared to come third, but also the slight expectation to maybe win it. And he did. So congratulations to Senna Agius. Australia has another Grand Prix winner, so congratulations to all of us Australians there, because we worked so hard for it, us sitting at home supporting on our sofas. We're still waiting on Kelso, but we'll get to that later. We're still waiting on Kelso. But Senna, add him to the list. We produce winners. Okay. But this was a great race. This was back and forth every lap. The story that got told through this race with, like, during different phases, it was like Canet was the quickest, and then Alonso was there challenging, but then Moreira was there challenging, then Senna was there challenging, and then, you know, Moreira would fall behind a bit, which is what happened at the end, and he also picked up the pieces a bit. Alonso, you'd be like, well, maybe he's going to drop off, maybe he doesn't have the pace to keep up, but then he found something to be the main challenger at the end to Canet, and it cost them both, really, but you have to go for it, don't you? Especially in Alonso's position. He's not fighting for a world championship. He's only there to win races now. So have a crack. He doesn't find himself at the front that often, but hopefully this is a turning point for him. And with Moreira, I mean, again, similar to Senna, just picked up the pieces at the end and really got his elbows out on that last corner and was just like, mate, you guys, you're on my outside here. There is absolutely no way he was letting them back in. So he gave a bit of a shove to Alonso, who went out wide and almost took out Canet, and it was chaos, but it was brilliant. I loved every single lap of this one. Could not take my eyes off it. It was brilliant. So go back, and if you didn't see this one, go back and find a replay. It was cracking. And let's have a quick look at the standings, shall we, just to see where we're at, because there were some implications. Because Manu Gonzalez, crashed out, didn't he? So no points for Manu, which has brought Canet to within 3 points. Could have had the championship lead had he won the race, or finished top 2, I want to say. Maybe. Dixon's dropped points. The Bosco Score is struggling a little bit. I'm trying to think if maybe, is any of them that was in the front runners Bosco Scorers? I don't think they were. So maybe they are struggling a little bit. Not struggling so bad that they can't get anywhere near the front, but just sometimes they look just enough off it, but that they can't challenge for a podium, which is probably a bit of a shame for them. But yeah, these guys have lost a bit of ground. Barry Baltus will be disappointed because he had a real chance to put himself in the title fight this weekend, and he's still adrift now. Moreira's brought himself into it, I suppose. If you're looking at him as a challenger, then Moreira and Agius kind of are there. I still think Manu Gonzalez is probably definitely the quickest guy out there. He needs to not get in his own way, if that makes sense. And I think if he keeps his head, he should win the world championship. But Canet, relentlessly consistent, so he doesn't drop points very often, Aaron Canet, anymore. So there is always it's going to be like consistency versus pure pace and inconsistency, isn't it? So hopefully we get a battle all the way to the end of the season. That was Moto 2. Let's move to MotoGP now. We'll do Moto 3 at the end, because that's the way it went in the rundown as well, didn't it? I mean, this is something that happens at the British Grand Prix every single year. And let's start by talking about that, and we'll go on to the crowd size as well. But we're talking about just the British Grand Prix as a event. Jump in the comments. There will be, I have a lot of British, obviously, viewers and listeners and whatever. You can't find me on, I upload all the audio of this to Spotify now, and I don't know if it goes to Apple Music as well, I guess. Yeah. I just use one of them RSS feeds. It just goes wherever. So if you only have time to listen, go do that. So all my listeners and watchers, I do have quite a lot of Brits. Please tell me either A, what's keeping you away, or B, why you think others are staying away. And while you think about that and type that in the comments, I'll quickly go into why does the British Grand Prix run, I think it was the year that I went, the Moto 2 went last. This year the Moto 3 went last. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am. I was there in 22, I think it was. 23? How long has it been since I've been there? Maybe 22. So the MotoGP is always the second race of the day. Is this just purely to be a 2 p.m. race start in Europe, like every other race? Is that it for the MotoGP? Is that why they do it? Because if it is, just don't. Because we do so many races in Asia and all that don't end up a 2 p.m. race start in Europe. Yeah, cool. Hey, mate. Yo. Just halfway through recording a video for this week. Can I call you back? All right.
I was going to hit record. But why do people just walk out a pedestrian crossing and just assume that there's a zebra crossing there when it's not actually a zebra crossing, and you just walk out. Well, why do cars stop at the lights and let people just cross?
Yeah, it's a British and Irish
Blows
thing.
my mind.
Very much
It
so.
blows my mind. And I just beat somebody there then. Like, fucking get out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm all for jaywalking as well. I think countries where you get in trouble for it. It's like,
Jaywalking,
I'm an
talking about
adult,
where
I can
it's
cross the
clear
road.
road.
But clearly, actually, sometimes I think in here in Manchester and stuff, people just aren't adult enough to cross the road.
Yeah, like again, jaywalking, like, there's traffic lights. You press the green, man. Oh well, there's no cars. I'm gonna go now. Sound. But just walking out in front of a car at a traffic light, literally, there's a shopping centre up near where I took mum and dad. Traffic's moving about 10 miles an hour. But people just like dodging dying between the cars.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you.
Like, wait for a gap so you don't die, maybe.
Insane.
Yeah, all right. I'll let you go, mate.
There you go. I'll let you go.
Sweet. But so yeah, trying to get back onto my train of thought there. Is this whole Moto3 last or Moto2 last, whatever they do it each year, is this just to be a 2 o'clock race start in thingy? Because I think it takes a bit out of the weekend. I mean, when I was there, it really was flat after. Like, you want people to like come and stay, and, you know, they have Jake Bugg on, you know, and if you're a fan of Jake Bugg like I am, I would have loved to have been there this year. I didn't know he was playing. Maybe could have been able to get me there to get a free Jake Bugg concert out of it. But again, most people are probably, even if Jake Bugg's on later and they think, oh, he's all right, I might go stay and see him. Mate, you're going home after MotoGP, aren't you? If you're not one of those people that watches Moto3 every week, I know sometimes people, when you support, you know, Formula One or whatever, like, I don't watch F2 when I watch Formula One. But with bikes, obviously, I grew up watching 125, 150, so I still watch Moto3 and Moto2. It's more a part of the weekend, but some people don't see it that way. The more casual watchers and things like that might be like, well, I've seen the big dogs, I'm going home. Like, this is what I came for. It's what I paid for. So it takes a bit out of the weekend, I think. Nothing better than a long build-up. You get 3 races throughout the day. You might have some support races. I don't know can't remember what support races they might have had at Silverstone when I was there. But I know at Phillip Island every year it was like Australian Superbikes, Australian, you know, 300s or something. You know, there was always other races as well. So, sorry, just adjust my... So I think it flattens the weekend a little bit for me. Takes away from the spectacle a little bit. Takes away from the build-up and the day. You know, getting in early. Moto3's at, what would it be? 10, 11 maybe? Moto2 at just after 12 till 1, then an hour gap, 2 o'clock start for MotoGP. Just do that. Just do that. Please. Okay, now that we've said that, tell me about, have you put in the comments yet what you think is going on with the numbers in the crowds? I don't know the actual attendance numbers, but I do remember, who tweeted it? Like Keith Ewan or something? Let me have a look. It looked dire. That's like, can I just say, it's like Phillip Island numbers. And I don't want to disparage Phillip Island and the Aussies getting out to Phillip Island at all, but Phillip Island is 2 hours drive from Melbourne. It's not easy to get to. There's one bridge on and off the island. It's a nightmare. If you're the kind of person who's like, I don't want to sit in traffic on Sunday night for 3-4 hours trying to get off an island, it's enough to keep people away. Also, Australia is a smaller population country, so we're not expected to have as many people turn up to a small island to watch a race. And even if you're coming from interstate, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, whatever, Hobart, you've got to get to Melbourne and then get a 2-hour drive. 2-hour drive from Melbourne. Like, it's not an easy event to get to. I can imagine it even puts off a lot of, if you're coming from overseas and you're like, I want to go to Phillip Island one day, it's one of the great circuits, blah, blah, blah. And you looked at what it took to get there, I imagine you would just be like, nah, maybe not. Quite possibly, without have been to all Grand Prix. It must be one of the hardest to get to on the calendar. Must be one of the hardest to get to. I mean, I can't think of one I've been to that was harder to get to than Phillip Island. Silverstone's easy to get to because I get it's not ideal, but you can get to a nearby town like Northampton, Milton Keynes on a train quite easily from almost anywhere in the country. And then there's like bus services and stuff. Like you can do it. And people go there for Formula One in outrageous numbers. So I know Formula One is a much bigger deal, but you know what I mean. So it's obvious that you wouldn't get as many people at Phillip Island, but these were like Phillip Island numbers. Is it simply so bad this year because it was in late May instead of in August or July? because the numbers haven't been great then either from memory. So where are we on this? Let me see what the numbers were. Total 99,000. But only 40,000 there on Sunday. What is keeping people away? What's keeping you away? I'm going to try from now on, because I always went to Phillip Island as my local Grand Prix. I went every single year. Lucky enough to have lived not too far from the circuit. And I had family that lived 2 minutes up the road from it, so I had free accommodation. So I get that it was easy for me to do that. But I'm going to start treating the British Grand Prix as my local Grand Prix, and I'm going to try and treat it the way I always treated Phillip Island. And I want to be there almost every year from now on. If I can get there. Obviously with more, the other part of that was because it was so hard for me to go to an international Grand Prix, I never went to any. So Phillip Island was the only Grand Prix I had an opportunity to go to, so it's easy. But now I have opportunities to go. Like I'm going to Brno later in the year. I went to Le Mans last year. I've been to Assen before and Jerez and Barcelona. So without sacrificing, an international Grand Prix in Europe for me, I do want to start trying to get to Silverstone every year and just try and make it a thing that I'm going to all the time. But why don't you do that? Tell me in the comments, please, all the Brits. And if you have been considering going to Silverstone, maybe you're from Spain, or maybe you are Australian and you're coming over on a holiday and you want to pick a Grand Prix or two to go to, or maybe you're Italian or whatever. Americans, tell me. If you were like coming over to Europe or whatever, and you're like, I'm going to go to an international Grand Prix this year while I'm away, or if you're from Europe and you're like, I want to go to another Grand Prix that isn't in my country, why isn't it Silverstone? Why isn't it Silverstone? The UK is just too expensive. I get that. That's why I like going on holidays to places like Poland and Czech Republic and stuff. It's just like, I get more bang for my pound over there. So I get that as well. Just a little question. I think it's so interesting. A country with so much heritage and love for motorcycles and motorcycle racing. I think the best domestic competition in the world is the BSB. And then you've got things like over, in the area, Isle of Man, over in Northern Ireland. The Northern Irish are mad for it. Like, why aren't you coming over? Are you not going to Silverstone? Would you rather just go to Superbikes, or do you just enjoy your Northwest 200 and your Isle of Man TT? Is that more your jam? Tell me what's going on. Is it simply because there's not a Brit in MotoGP? Because I'm telling you, you might get Dixon in there one day, but you're a long way off having anyone worth watching in there, to be honest. He's not going to win anything. That's harsh, but you know what I mean? It's not like you've got like a potential title contender coming through, are you? So, it's like, again, the big time in Australia when the crowds are big is McDowell, Casey Stoner. That's when the crowds were massive. So I know maybe you need a title contender to convince you to go. I know that happened in Australia. I went every year anyway, but some people were like, I want to watch Casey Stoner win for like the 6th time at Phillip Island, which is great. But is that what you're waiting for? Because you could be waiting a while. Just go. You're not going to see it. Okay, let's talk about the racing. The big story is Fabio. 3 poles in a row, so the pace is there, and the guy is elite. A ride height device issue has cost him the win. And again, this is just one of those ones where it just brings up again the whole thing of ride height devices and why they're there and blah, blah, blah. One of my issues for me, and we'll talk about the results, so we're going to get to Bez and everything in a minute. We're getting through all the housekeeping first this week. We're doing all the background stuff, and then we'll talk about the actual race. This is one of those things that I always never understand this in motorsport. Again, I'm not super technical guy when it comes to the stuff. I have a basic knowledge on and common sense on what I think makes sense to my head about sort of the technical aspects of motorsport. But I'm not super technical. For me, this is one of those things. And again, purely reactionary. It's the first ride height device issue we've had in a while, I think. Maybe I had a couple last year, I want to say, where people got stuck down. But it can happen. And I think it's part of a broader issue, which is ride height devices and why we don't need them. Now, here's the thing where they go, was it last year they announced the new regulations where they was changing engine capacity down to 800, 850s or something like that, where minimizing the amount of aero through the regulations that can be used on the bike. Of course, they will find their way around to throw any wing on it that they can, but for now, it just looks like there's going to be less. And they're banning ride height devices. So my thing is, and I get with the engine thing, but all motorsport does this. Formula One does it. MotoGP does it. Well, I'm talking about them too. I don't know what it's like in like endurance cars and stuff like that that are prototype vehicles as well. Do they announce their regulations in like 2024 to be like, we'll do this in 2027 or 2028 or whatever, like 4 years down the line, 3-4 years? Because it annoys me a little bit. Like, if they're like, we want to change engine capacity, I get that. So new regulations. So then you're like, well, while we do that, we'll ban ride height devices and try and minimize the aero. Now, minimizing the aero, I'm not as think as urgent. You may as well wait for the regulation change, for the engine change. Although there's no reason why you couldn't just be like, figure it out for next year, lads. But my issue with all of them, Formula One's the same. They'll announce 4 years, in 4 years from now, we'll change the regulations. Why can't we just be like, next year, lads, you're going to have to turn up with a different car? Or next year, like at the start of 2024, tell them for the start of 2025. They're going to, I know the engine thing is a bit more R&D. Might be a bit hard to drop that on them in 12 months notice. But say we're going to have a brand new engine regulation coming with brand new regulations. This is the full set of regulations. But the bit about ride height devices, that starts at the start of next year. Just, you're not allowed to use them. Take them off the bike. Why can't they do that is my question. Again, more knowledgeable people than me, jump in the comments. Is that too harsh? Because it's not like anyone's getting disadvantaged. They all have a ride height device and they all have to figure out the geometry of the bike without one in 12 months. No one has an advantage. You can just be like, we're scrapping it for the start of next season. Why are we waiting for 2027? My 2 cents. That is my 2 cents. Scrap it now. No one's at a disadvantage. Everyone has to figure it out in the same amount of time. So, it's competition, isn't it? Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's supposed to be hard. Trying to build a Grand Prix winning race bike. Right? It's supposed to be hard. Anyway, let's talk about racing. Marco Bezzecchi has won another Grand Prix. Aprilia has a Grand Prix win for the season. Did they get one last year? Oh yeah, Mav won, didn't he? So, and the year before that, I think they won at Silverstone with Aleix, I want to say. So they like it there. It was an interesting one. Everything happened. I mean, we'll talk about Alex Marquez in a sec independently, but in terms of the way this played out, we had the chaos at the start because medium tyre runners struggling in the colder conditions. So the soft tyre guys made the right call. Alex went down turn 1, and that was like ridiculous. Literally wasn't even at a lean yet. Like it just went bang and it was gone. Just first squeeze of the brake. So that was interesting. Mark goes down. At the same time, we have the incident with Morbidelli and Aleix and a bit of a spat between the two of them again. Tell me whose side you fall on that one. Is Frankie being a bit funny about it, or is he justified in thinking that Aleix race is a bit different around him? But let me know. Not really on my radar, that one, but yeah. Mark crashes. We have the accident, and it leaves like oil or something on the road, which means they have to red flag the race. And because the race is less than 3 laps old, we have a restart. Does this rule make sense? I think there probably was a time when this rule is probably created back in the day where it does make sense, where it's probably hard to keep track back then without the technology of like who's where and what at what time. Everyone's really bunched up. We don't know who, if you were 5th or 6th at that point. So just go back to the start. Anything after 3 laps are a bit more spread out, and maybe we can tell where you were on the grid, on the track, and we can reorganize you onto the grid in that way. But it's declared a non-race. I don't know why that is. I think that must be the only reason. Is like back in the day, it was hard to tell, like when they're a big bunch, if it's less than 3 laps old, which just start again from where you were. What I did find interesting is that even if you'd crashed and basically declared you were out of the race, you could still come back. I guess that's in the rules. I mean, I'm assuming everything that was above board because everyone's been classified. Interesting one. Mark is the only one that I'd think maybe you do get away with because it was right as the flag come out. So maybe he gets away with it. Alex, the 2 guys that caused the incident, I guess technically they were close enough to the incident that they could be allowed back in the race. But why is it not a thing where we just go off what the computer said, the instant that the race director declared a red flag, press the button. Everyone, or gets on the radio, red flag, put your red flag, press the red flag button, whatever. Why don't they take that order? I mean, it doesn't really matter in the end, as it was only been 3 laps, how much can change. But you would probably find that Mark was on his ass when the flag went out, and he probably, as the bikes were going past, he's maybe like 15th, 16th. Instead, he starts 4th or something. So is that something you'd like to see changed, or do you think it's fair enough, or do you not really care? Let me know. Now, because of all that, we do restart again with everyone back on the grid, basically. Now, what was interesting is a few of the guys still went medium. It proved to be the wrong decision because all the soft runners, while it seemed like maybe they would start to fall away at some point, and the advice of Michelin, I think, was that they didn't know if it was going to last. But the advantage that they built, and you imagine what Fabio would have done way out there, was enough to hold on in the end. So, although was Bez on a medium? No, he was on a soft front. He was definitely on a soft front. The soft runners got the job done. There was just not enough temperature in the circuit to work the mediums. And Hodgie, to his credit, when I was watching TNT beforehand, they asked him, what would you do? He goes, well, I'd rather be on a degrading soft with some kind of heat and temperature in it than a cold medium that I can't get temperature into and I can't get feel from. And it proved to be a hugely intelligent thing to say because that's the way it worked out, basically. I know Mark got a result in the end. It's Marc Marquez, so it's a bit different. But he would have been behind Fabio as well, so would have missed the podium to 3 soft tyre runners. So yeah, it was a great race. It was great. And then the drama of it with Fabio, it's enough to break your heart. Look, he's not a title fight anyway. I know losing any race win in your career is massive. It's massive. Because how many do you really get the opportunity to win? Even if you are an elite level guy like him, you end up on the wrong bike for a few years. There's a few years worth of wins you don't get to get. So when you lose one, I imagine it is rather heartbreaking. In the end of the day, it's probably positive. It's definitely positive that Yamaha and him, specifically him, but Jack, brilliant on Sunday, is extracting a lot from that bike. A lot. So the signs are good. And I think when he looks back, he'll look at it and be like, look, I got done in by a technical, but I can win a race on this. I can win maybe a few. I can get pole positions. I can win a sprint. Whatever it is, it's coming for him. Trust me. And let's talk about the Ducatis because, I mean, we'll start with Pecco. Big struggles. Again, probably should have taken the soft. Probably would have helped him more than anyone because he's the one that lacks the most feel by the look of it on the GP25s. Even Digi in the sprint, I think, went past him, didn't he? So he's the one that's lacking the feel the most. So I'm not convinced that it's just like he's never been that good and now he's not as good as Digi and that's where he actually is at. No, I think he's an elite level rider who sometimes you put a guy on a bike and you think it's going to work. You're thinking Lorenzo, Ducati, stuff like that. And it's the other guy who does better. It just, sometimes a rider does not have a feel for a machine. And that is absolutely what's happening here. I think he will get to the odd race this year where he feels good. Conditions are good for him. There's plenty of grip at the circuit and he feels like he can lean on the front a little bit. I think it's the front where he's having issues. Yeah, but it is worrying generally. I think it's very worrying for him. I think he's going to get nothing out of this season and he needs to be able to influence the team to point the bike in his direction a little bit, which is going to be hard because why would you not point more towards Mark? Now, maybe Mark is having the same issues and giving the same feedback, but he obviously is still good enough to win. So it doesn't really matter as much. But if Mark's saying, no, we need to actually, it's this we need to change, then I think Pecco's in a bit of trouble because he's not going to get the direction from the team and from the bike that he wants, which means he could end up more and more off it as time goes on. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but it could end up going that way. The biggest missed opportunity of the weekend is Alex because it's the first time I think we've turned up at a weekend. He's been strong in almost everywhere. But this is the one where it was like, well, he's stronger than Mark. He's the strongest guy on circuit. GP24, working nicely. He's clicking something insane there. And it's all working for him. Does the business in the sprint as expected. Just, yep, done. Job done. I'll be back tomorrow. And then turn 1, I mentioned it. He barely even leaned the bike. He just it was probably a mistake. He probably gave it a big old squeeze knowing that he had to get temperature into the front of the bike and he couldn't, get the front fired up. So he really needed to work it and it was too much. Couldn't handle it. It was still too cold at that point. So, and then when we got the restart, obviously there was no confidence in it. He managed to finish 5th, but he went back a little bit and then came forward again. And yeah, huge missed opportunity because how many times is he going to turn up and be like, this is the one where I pick up? How many points do you gain? Again, you could count it as a good weekend because he could have been out at turn 1, or you can count it as a missed opportunity because he really was the quickest guy and the conditions and then the tyre selection did him in. So, because it was cold, it's weird because in the UK, we've had about 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know what it was like down south, but up here has been magnificent. I'm talking 25, 26 degrees, always over 20, pure sunshine. Didn't get rain for like weeks, maybe a spit here and there, but which is like ridiculous for us. Usually you get 5 days of rain and 2 days of clear every week, but it was just day after day of pure sunshine. And then obviously it's cooled down a bit since then. We're now at around 15 degrees at the moment, but it was 10 degrees hotter for 3 weeks leading up to that race. So it could have worked out brilliantly, but we got rain and it was cold and all that stuff. So yeah, had it just been temperatures consistent from the weeks leading up, I think Alex just wins easy. Mark, lucky escape, we've mentioned that. What a get out. What a get out. I mean, he'll take it. But yeah, it's a real get out of jail there, wasn't it? And that's really all I've got on those guys. Marco Bezzecchi, let's mention him because I haven't really done yet. Because I'll be honest, when he started carving through the field, I was like, that's the danger man here. If anyone's going to challenge Fabio, it was him. I know Zarco looked strong as well, but Bez was the guy. Bez was the guy. Didn't have the pace in the end to go after Fabs, but I thought was brilliant value for his second place. Again, I think it's not indicative of where Aprilia is at. I think they're more at where he usually is, and this was a good circumstance, a circuit that they perform well at traditionally. So I don't know if it'll return at the next Grand Prix back to where it was. But you're not going to turn it down, are you? You're not going to knock it back. You're not going to say, well, we didn't really deserve to win it because Fabio had a thing and we're normally not that good and it's only a good circuit for us and the conditions suited us and our rider. You're not going to give a shit, are you? Celebrate like you've won. And they did. Fair enough. Okay. Let's do the All Japan Cup. Zarco streaking clear, goes to 54 points. So the results, we've got to load up the graphic. There we go. Okay. Johan Zarco wins again with his second place. So that's a All Japan Cup win. Of course, would have been second. We've mentioned that. Faultless was Fabio. Absolutely, purely faultless. Zarco almost, I'd say similar. Was excellent. But obviously didn't have the outright pace of Fabio. Had to come through the field a little bit. Jack Miller second this week. And what a performance. Because, and I mean, the soft front, Yamaha maybe good on the front, I don't know. But some of the footage of, there was one of Jack. It was an onboard of whoever he was overtaking. God, who was it? Can't remember. And it looked like he completely missed the corner because of how early the medium tyre runner Ducati braked, right? And Jack came flying past, like you're like, mate, he's going to hit the wall at that speed compared to what the other guy was doing. There is so much more grip, first of all, in the soft front, but also these lads, Jack was probably one of the best ones for it over the race. Just throwing it in there and just being like, deal with me. Like, yeah, you're doing me on the straights, but I'm going to have you into the corner. And just every time someone went past him, he had a nibble back. It was great. Brilliant to watch. And that's why we love Jack Miller. So yeah, Jack was second. Joan Mir, a rare third. It was good. Was good in the Grand Prix, Joan Mir. Finished 10th on the road. So good result for him. Then we had Alex Rins, Luca Marini, Miguel Oliveira, Somkiat Chantra, who, like, honestly, that is a plum ride these days, an LCR Honda by the look of it. And we're just wasting it because we have to have an Asian rider on Honda. You're honestly better off with Taka for another season. I don't know why I know that it gets to this point where it's like, maybe he just did want to retire. But we always get to this point where it's like, well, he's not been good enough for a long time. Taka, I'm talking about. So we need to replace him. Well, what's the point of going to replace him with someone worse? Like, it doesn't make sense. Wouldn't you rather just have the guy that's been underperforming for like a few years, but is still better than the guy you're getting in? I know they wanted Agura, but which would have been a good move. But like, if you can't get a Gura, just be like, look, just Taka, just have it for another year, mate. I don't want to put Chantra on it. I know the sponsor probably want a Chantra on it, Thai Grand Prix and all that shit, but Idemitsu, bloody, I don't know where they're from. Are they Japanese? They sound Japanese, but you know, maybe they have a big market in Thailand, Southeast Asia, whatever it is they do. But like, come on, I can't take it seriously. I can't take it seriously. Anyway, Fabio didn't finish and Aleix didn't finish. So I don't know if Aleix didn't finish because he didn't restart after the accident, or if he didn't finish because he got back out there and then crashed again. Someone told me. So that leaves the standings as thus. 54 points, Johann Zacco, your championship leader. 29 points, Luca Marini, still second. Jack Miller moves back into third on 24 points. Alex Rins, 19. Fabio Quartararo stranded on 18 points still. After 3 pole positions in a row, still on 18 points. Joan Mir, 10 points. Taka Nakagami, 6 points. Miguel Oliveira, 4. Augusto Fernandez, 4. Chantra, 3. Aleix, 1. Honda streaking ahead on 103 points. Yamaha on 69. So that's that done for the week. Let's talk about MotoGP Fantasy. How did I do? First, I've looked at it this week. So this week I brought in Marquez, Alex for Pecco. I left the rest. I had Quartararo. I still was tempted to bring Zarco in for Quartararo, but then when I saw Fabio doing well, I was like, I'll keep it. And again, honestly, guys, I'm cursed. I bring Alex in, crashes, and then has a bad result. Well, not a bad result, but not the best result anyway, when he should have probably won the race on form at that weekend. I've got Fabio in there. He will continue to crash out of the lead or have issues or whatever while he's in my fantasy team. So sorry about that, Fabio, but I'm going to persist probably with you. Yeah, let's look at the league. I scored 137.5 points. Tell me how that went against you. There's your top 10. It looks like I got outscored by quite a lot of people. I've dropped to 39th, and I promised a shout out to someone. Where are they? God, I can't bloody find him. How low have you dropped, mate? Oh, God's sake, I can't even bloody find him. Moto Steph, 55th. That's my nephew. So, shout out to Moto Steph, you're 55th. You got work to do, lad. You've got work to do. Yeah, it's a bit rubbish, that, mate. He's 10, by the way, but, you know, do better. Okay, so, yeah, there's your top 10. As I said, I think it's about the same as usual. There's a bit of movement within the 10. I'm noticing in 7th, B111, B111, BL, whatever you were going for there. That might be a new one. It also might not be. I struggle to remember what I did yesterday, let alone what this top 10 was last week. So there's your MotoGP Fantasy. Tell me what moves you've made and what you're planning on making coming up to Aragon. And if there's any advice for me, because I definitely need it at the moment, as the one who's supposed to be giving the advice, every move I make is in the wrong direction at the moment. So someone help me out. I'm struggling. Okay, Moto 3 is the last thing we've got left. And what actually happened in this? This was a great... Oh, yes. Antonio Rueda. Bloody, he's done the typical Spanish thing and done a last to first. Because of course he did. This was full of incidents and things like that. Luca Lunetta turfing David Munoz off the road. A few cheers went around, I'm sure, many parts of Silverstone when that happened, and a few in front of a few TV sets at home, just because people tend not to like David Munoz very much. Not much else to say about that. But he ended up third anyway, Lunetta, because he served a ride-through for that. No, he didn't. He served a long lap penalty for that and ended up third. It was a bit chaotic. I mean, we had a huge main group, which was all the way down to 13 or 14 guys for a long time. And then we had a few drop off. Ralston, Ogden. I'm not sure what happened to Furusato in the end because he was in amongst it. But basically, we ended up with a bit of a ding-dong with the top 8 or so. I want to say. I thought at points during the race, Almanza looked good. Quiles. Almanza also did a long lap. Quiles I thought was maybe on for his first win. He's finished second in the end by a nose. But Rueda's, I mean, as much as we thought Piqueras was going to be what Rueda actually is right now, Rueda is the guy now. This is a kid who's really clicking. He seems to have that ability that the best riders in Moto3 have, and they know where to put their bike on the last lap and when to make their move, which Piqueras, I always think, does have that to a degree, but Rueda's just got it a bit more now. Of course, Piqueras did not finish that race. He crashed out, and he's really conceded plenty of ground in the standings there. So where is he? 54 points, but I mean, you could stick a fork in this. Kelso, another one, crashed out. That's one where, like, if you just... his was an odd one because on the switchback, hit the throttle and it lifted the front a little bit so that when he went back down, it just... Look, it can happen. It's a mistake. But that's another one where if he stayed on there with Piqueras going down, he'd just about be second in the World Championship. Now, I know it was a big, hard group to sort of work your way to the front of, but he had plenty of pace. He looked good. And I think that's why I don't think anyone's catching Rueda, but I think Kelso's definitely on for second in the World Championship. Definitely. Again, needs to win a race. But 100% it's on. 100%. I mean, Carpe was great. All weekend. Where did he end up in that race, actually? Because he had a brilliant weekend. He's ended up fourth, the poor lad. He's missed out in all the scrapping at the end, but he'll learn from that. He looks a real talent. And Perrone was good. Look, Peony just likes to cause a bit of chaos every now and then. But yeah, Carpe was bloody excellent all weekend, and I thought it was good enough for at least a podium, if not to win it. But yeah, look, that's how your weekend looks. Silverstone, again, jump in the comments and let me know what you think about the event. What are they doing wrong? What aren't they doing wrong? Is it just too expensive? How much is a 3-day pass these days? Was it still like around 100 quid? Is that too much? I know that like sometimes places like Assen, it'll be like, oh, it's €100 for 3 days. And everyone's like, that's great. It's not that different to 100 quid. It's like another 20 quid or something, isn't it? Like, what's €100? 80 pounds? 85 quid? I don't know. It's not a huge difference. I mean, it's still there, still not insignificant. A lot of us don't earn that much money. You can save 15, 20 quid, you save it. But, like, is that enough to make you go to, let's say, Brno instead, where if you can pick up, I mean, flights aren't cheap when there's Grand Prix on, but if you can pick up a cheap enough way to get there, say you're from Germany or something, it's much easier to get to somewhere like that. Jump on a train or something, you know? But let me know, what is it that's keeping the people away from the British Grand Prix? Thanks for watching. Goodbye.